welcome to This Week in Hospitality Marketing, live show number 303. And yes, I'm keeping this in because I went to the dermatologist the other day, and being a Florida born and raised person and of my skin complexion, my annual visit to dermatology is what they internally call Cancun Team Week Funding Day. And I got to get smarter about investing. I should pre-invest in liquid nitrogen prior to my visit, because I will get a bump in. I'd be like insider trading. I'll get a bump in my value of investment, knowing that their demand is going to go up substantially the day I go to the dermatologist. So, yes, pardon the Band-Aid on the face, but the doctor says, "Oh, let's take care of that." And like, whoa, thank you. That was my face. Anyway, Mr. Dean, how are you today, sir?
Hey, we're doing good. It's Friday.
It's Friday. It's the Friday before Memorial Day, a little bit long,
Right.
and nicely of the first real optimistic large holiday. I don't know how to phrase it, but obviously the discussions we've been having about this holiday in particular have been optimistic because travel's up 600% in flights. 38 million people are going to be driving.
Yeah.
Just a lot, and not just to stand at a distance looking through a window, but genuinely showing up without masks and or other things, and spending time for the first time with family. I hope we don't lose track of what the holiday's for, but I think everyone's happy that we have a holiday.
Well, and I think, and we, as a culture in the United States, as a people, we kind of mistakenly had this idea last year at Memorial Day that, hey, this was we're at a point now where, you know what, I've had it, I'm just going to go out. And you saw a big rush Memorial Day last year. We know in hindsight that was not the right thing to do, even though everybody really loved to do it. Knock on wood, I kind of feel like this year it's for real. This is a start. 4th of July to me is probably a little bit better timing. I think we're a little bit early yet, but I do think it's going to be a good kickstart to the summer season. Robert's newsletter that came out, one of the headlines on it, weekly U.S. hotel occupancy reaches 60%, first since the pandemic. So that was very exciting. Of course, then he went down to continue to downplay it and compare it with a whole bunch of negative things, which, Robert, I'm just going to ignore all the rest of that.
Right. Oh, hello, Mr. Del Gutman. How are you this morning? Happy soon-to-be Memorial Day weekend.
Happy Memorial Day weekend. Hi, Dean.
Hi, how are you?
Great,
we were
thank
just talking
you.
about whether the exuberance of this holiday will get overshadowed or will overshadow the purpose of the holiday. And then Dean brought up, of course, how that compares to how we looked at Memorial Day last year and the differences. And then he started quoting Robert, which is always dangerous to do.
I know.
Because Robert starts good and then ends up in tragedy and despair. But yes, so it's kind of funny because as I talk to clients and we're reviewing star reports and so forth, you first off have to ignore the percentage variation numbers because they're just astronomically out of whack. I mean, 867% growth, from annual year over year or, whatever, because the numbers are irrelevant to what was happening a year ago compared to what you're doing now. And you have to look at the tangible. Compared to your comp set, what is your occupancy compared to your comp set? What is your ADR compared to your comp set? Not your indexing scores, not your variations of indexing score, or your percentage. You have to almost just blind eye that and say, okay, don't pat yourself on the back for some sort of growth that doesn't really show correctly. But in the conversations, it's like, congratulations, it looks like your weekends are improving. I know you're not in an occupancy at 56 or 72% or 62%. That is what you would be totally happy with normally. But in comparison to what we've just been going through, yay!
It's all relative, right? Yeah.
It's kind of like a bittersweet Sour Patch Candy kind of thing. It's like, I love you, I hate you, I love you, I hate you, I love you, I hate you. It's back and forth between the good and the bad when you're going through the numbers and so forth. I don't know. What do you guys?
I think you just got to take the win. I mean,
yeah, I do feel though that there is some false exuberance, saying, "Oh, we're busy and the flights are going, and I know my friends are traveling, and I'm beginning to see travel pictures much more on Facebook and all of those positive things. But it's not like the hotels are just sitting there counting the money right now. They just suffered more than a year of pain, and it's going to take a long time to recover from that.
Yeah.
And I do still think that even though things will bounce back, it will feel like it's a wild upswing, but actually it's going to be a while before our average rates and our occupancy and just the consistency of the travel is going to be fully recovered.
By the way, Adele, I'm just going to break our conversation for just a moment. It's not microphone envy or anything like this, but I am loving on your microphone and what it's doing with your voice now. You remind me, and this is going to date me, of some late night album disc jockey from a album FM radio station. That girl that you're always like, hey, I wonder what she looks like. I hope she looks as good as she sounds, because yours sounds like, hi, welcome to Soprano.
Pillow Talk with Delilah.
You know what? I was being interviewed by David Mignano, I think is the way he pronounces his last name. He has a podcast called Be Our Guest. And I said, I have a beautiful microphone. I asked him if he could hear me. I have a beautiful microphone, but I can't plug it into my computer because all of my USB ports are taken. He said, but you can buy one of those things that have a lot of USB ports. And I looked down at my feet only to find this. I mean, it was inches away from me, and I could have been using it all along. But I'm glad that it's working out better. It sounds.
You sound wonderful, and you always look wonderful, but you sound wonderful. And now you sound like exactly what I would think of as a late night album disc jockey from an FM station in New York. Be like, hi there.
I used to be that guy. Don't knock it.
Yeah, right.
And it
cool
shows, Dean, you have such a wonderful voice.
He does. He has a radio voice, and I have a face for radio. Obviously, as I was talking about with the dermatology visit, where I'm going to forever have my hand on my face today as I talk. I'm not going to be lazy or distracted. It's just I'm trying to cover up the fact that I've stuck a Band-Aid on my face. Hey, there he is. Look at.
I'll say we don't usually see it, but I've got one of these things hanging in front of me.
Look at this microphone hour. It's like, hi, yeah, we're cool. We have.
Oh, I need one of those flat things that you guys have.
Pop screens. Well, you have a muffle mic on it. You have a phone mic on it. So
a windsock, as we used to call it.
Yeah. Well, no, technically, windsocks was the fuzzy furry one.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Because God knows I have enough geeky stuff around here that I have all those little variations thereof. But anyway, okay. So now that we've talked about technology and microphones and microphone envy, and my microphone's as big as your microphone, I did want to kind of hit on something that we. Adele, I think you caught a little bit of it this week when we were on the Clubhouse, but I know Dean, you're with me on a couple of things. I kind of made up this phrase that I'm going to actually carry on forward on some future discussions as well. But it was a combination of saying emergence, convergence, and operational optimization. Because I think what's happening now is you're seeing a lot of articles. Well, a lot of people have been pontificating, are beating their chest saying, I told you so. Which is like, okay, great, good, congratulations, you picked one lottery number. And then you have other people. Huh?
And it was the obvious one.
And it was the obvious one. Duh, this is going to happen when it happens, right?
Yeah, really? You think?
Yeah,
maybe.
Thank you, Captain Obvious. That sounds about right. But I think getting in our way now is we're not translating the anticipation of what we thought was going to happen with the realities of how we're going to have to deal with it to the translation of how we actually operate. And I talked to Dean just before we jumped on. I just threw at him the idea of saying, look, I think what's getting in our way is we have a misconstrued perception of milestones, benchmarks, and goals. I think we interchangeably use the terms, but they're not interchangeable. We defer a lot of things because this weekend is a great example. Okay, we'll worry about that after this holiday weekend. Let's get through this holiday, okay? And from a marketing perspective, I can tell you that I shut off most of my marketing beginning of this week because I've already sold this weekend. And behaviorally, people do not think past their next event. So this is their event. And so if I haven't already sold them into this weekend, it's not like everything's shut off. But all the broad marketing categorizations. And Dean, just make you feel better, message stayed on, just so you know. Well, it's also a slower boat to turn too. That doesn't happen overnight. You just don't flip a switch and it shuts off. But
That's
the
not
idea
entirely accurate. Anyway,
I know it's gotten better. It has gotten better. I do have
there's
to
ways. There's ways.
Yeah. So anyway, but everybody's focus is on this weekend, and nobody's thinking about past this weekend until this weekend passes, and so we do that in business too. It's when we have an X level of business, or when we have enough business, and sometimes we don't have a number to it. Just when we have enough business, we'll fill that salesperson's chair. Okay, we have to have enough people calling us about those kind of things to justify we need to put a person back in that chair. Or, hey, you know what? We're not going to worry about that campaign because it's crazy busy right now. Until we get our head above water with what we're doing, we don't need to market ourselves for more business because we can't handle the business we have. And they lose perspective that it's not about selling current business. It's about laying the groundwork for your future representation. They lose that perspective. They see it as, if I advertise now, I'm going to have more of a problem I already have. And it's like, no, you're not going to have a problem later on with it, because you're not going to have anybody aware of what you're capable of selling later when the demand isn't as it is right now. We all have to live through the tsunami first.
So you're talking about basically a difference between being reactive, a cause and effect scenario, as opposed to being proactive, a build it and they will come.
Right, and strategic. Building out the idea of how you're looking at your entire timeline, not what just is in front of your nose right now.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is operationally getting in the way right now, is that a lot of people that I'm coming across are all about the here now, what's the problem now, issues now, solutions now thing. And not everything can get solved right now. Right now, the realities are truly what we talk about. There is a labor shortage. There is a talent shortage. There is a lot of hotels did not prepare themselves in the time that they had to prepare, which we were, vanguarding for such a long time. We're like, guys, this is time to upgrade your tech. Guys, this is time to clean house and reorganize yourself. Guys, yeah, to use the pit stop, pull the engine, do the heavy lifting stuff, do your updates on your website, whatever it is. And now that you didn't, and now all of a sudden the business is coming in, that's it. You didn't improve the motor on the rowboat, so you just got a rowboat. You are what you are right now. So now you have to figure out what to do about that. And yes, there's still things, you're not dead in the water, so to speak, but you're not going to have the same options that somebody that did do it has. There's a lot of businesses that took advantage of the opportunity to do better for themselves, and they're riding the wave like a surfer on a contest in Hawaii. They're just, got it, and now the rest of us are drowning and flip-flopping in the rip current, that are just don't know what to do. Go ahead, Adele. I'm sorry.
It's like what our friends Amy Infante and Holly Zoba are always saying. You have to be working those relationships in order to have that business there for you in 6 months, in 9 months, a year from now. You're creating your future today.
Mm-hmm.
You don't plant seeds and for them to bloom into flowers tomorrow. You have to be thoughtful about what are you doing today to grow your garden. And you do need to have a vision of what you want that to look like, and then think backwards as to, well, what steps do I need to be doing, even if it's just a little bit every day to work towards that. I think Amy says that it takes like 12 calls before, an agreement is made on actually having a piece of business. People think they give up at 1, 2, 3 calls, but actually it takes much longer.
I'm going to quote our inner Tim Peter today, in the sense that there's the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today.
Wonderful. That's a wonderful quote.
Yeah, it is a wonderful, in that sense, and then the shipwreck thing and everything else. But the idea of it is, to your point, that I think too many. It's like when you go into a meeting. Okay, here's 2 scenarios: a meeting that a lot's going to get talked about, but nobody's telling you what you're talking about until you sit down, and then you got to shoot from the hip. And you're just reacting to everything that's being said, and you're being asked to make decisions, but you haven't had enough time to even absorb the data, let alone know all the data that's involved with the decision.
Oh, kind of like Robert's email before the show.
Kind of like Robert's email before the show. It's like, hey, here's everything. Good luck. Hey, 5 minutes, which is better than 10 minutes into it going, oh, I sent it to you already. Oh, okay. Or going into a meeting that they've already sent you the context of the meeting, the agenda of the meeting, and supporting documentation of what will be discussed in the meeting. So now you've had the time to review, preview, and assess what it is that you think, whatever it is your participation would be into it. So when you go into the meeting, it isn't this shoot from the hip mentality. Things will dynamically change in the meeting. That's why there's a meeting. But the concept of the productivity of that meeting has fundamentally changed because you were prepared for it. Instead of reacting to the content as presented, you are proactively engaging with what you've already planned to have in the part of the dialogue. So more constructive dialogue comes out of that meeting. That's a little bit of what we're talking about with current reaction of they're bringing people on board because of whatever criteria they've established, saying, okay, we now need that person. And that person is walking into a maelstrom of stuff. They're just like, okay, hey, listen, it's going to be, crank in here. You're going to be at the front desk. You're going to be the second person. We usually get about 30, 40 in the line. This is the PMS system. I know you're not fully trained on it, but here's the basic functionality, what you need. That goes about guest number 2 before something comes up that wasn't shown. Now there's a delay. Now the person has to come and go, oh, you need to do this. And when you do that, lack of preparation, why wasn't that person brought on board, trained properly, and put in a position of success before you totally torch them, where they're like, I don't want to do this. These people are so mad at me because I don't know what the hell I'm doing, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing because they didn't tell me how to do this stuff. I'm out of here, And
Absolutely.
that's what's happening,
Yes.
In a lot of scale. That's just a silly example, but that's just one example. So,
I was just watching a broadcast a few minutes before joining in, and it had the headhunter Jeremy Nichols, and it had the hotel expert Christine Trippi talking about the whole onboarding experience and the interview experience, and how we really need to re-examine that. And she talks about the only time this ever happened to her 20 years ago. She took a job as a event planner or something like that in a hotel, and there were roses for her on her desk. And she has told like a million people now about this experience. It made her feel so wonderful and welcome. But also, there are so many things that you can do that are so practical, like have an online tool where you have your standard operating procedures, where you have, and I hope that those standard operating procedures should all be rewritten to include the hospitality in them and not be transactional, but be rewritten to actually evoke somebody behaving in a way that meets your goals and your vision and your company culture that you want to have in the future. Not the one you have now, but the one you aspire to. Have those little training videos available, because when you're in this tornado, it's hard to get somebody's attention to really pay attention to you and have that great one-on-one training that you may want on your first day or your first week. But if you have your best people all sharing tidbits of their best advice for people who are coming that are new, then that person might leave one day, but now you've got it recorded, and that person can watch it in their own time without taking the time of someone else. And then the one-on-one can support that rather than require as much time from the other hospitality guest service agent or whoever it is, or the sales manager that has other things to do. That is just it's just so useful to use technology to speed things up.
I'll refer to a conversation I've had now, unfortunately, repetitively with different clients, and I'm not going to call them out on it, but they know who they are because I told them this to their face anyway. We're going to have a marketing call. Okay. GM shows up and corporate officer, whatever corporate person is there. And first thing I hear from the GM, oh, hey guys, listen, it's got to be short. It's got to be brief. It's got to be to the point. I'm working 80 plus hours this week. I'm totally torched. I got not enough people. I got 86 check-ins today. You know, I got 44 checkouts, blah, blah, blah. I got my restaurant server. And we get 5 minutes of talking about how he is killing himself. Partially because it's in front of the corporate person, to remind the corporate person from all the other politics that are going on. It's like, why am I not getting more people? Why aren't you giving me more opportunities to be helpful? Whatever it is, the politics of talking about it come into play. And I look and I was like, man, I was that person. I was that person that totally just buried myself into that role. I mean, I was, if somebody didn't show, and I wanted to show my team that I could do the job so that they could respect me when I asked them to do what work I was asking them. I did all those things. I did the 120 hours. Oh yeah, hell, 80, that was a weekend. You know, it don't count. It doesn't count. At the end of the day, it doesn't count. And what you're dealing with is the fact that if you stop doing it, they'll get the next person to do it. It may take them time and it may not, whatever, and it may not be better than you or whatever. But at the end of the day, I was told by somebody that worked with me that it's like, look, the owners of this company are going to appreciate the heck out of what you do. Okay. They're just going to be thankful for it and everything else like that. But they're going to come to your funeral. They're going to say he was a good guy. And as they're walking past your grave, they're going to say, and who's sitting in his chair now? Because it's business. It's what you do. So the fact that somebody is reduced to having to work at those levels, to do that kind of work without the resource. I understand there's just, you know, even if corporate was desperately trying to find people for you, what if they were there? Corporate's not on your doorstep. They're not helping. I have another client that the corporate people are actually showing up pulling desk shifts because their corporate office is in the same region that the hotels are located at. And they're showing up pulling shifts. That's awesome. But it's still not solving the problem. It's only putting a Band-Aid on it in that sense of, you know, the problem is, to what you just said, Adele, if you can't find the people to do it, find the means to train the people that you have to do better. It's still not probably going to solve the whole thing, but go ahead.
Definitely. And the thing is that people say they don't have time, perhaps, to record the message or to, they don't have the time to prepare that body of work. But imagine how much time it'll save you.
Right.
You're just spinning on your hamster wheel, doing the same thing again and again and again, because you won't stop to take a moment to do it once really beautifully on a recording. By the way, if it's not so beautiful, you can always change it. You can make a new video like that.
And you'll probably have to, because things change, right?
Yes,
it has to be a little bit dynamic. You add in a chapter, whatever it may be. And yeah, we just had an entire year of a pit stop, folks.
Right.
So where there's an opportunity right now for people to do exactly what you're talking about. You know, we think of vacations right now as being going to the beach and things like that. Mountain resorts, your ski lodges, things like that. Okay, you're in a downtime right now. Everything we're talking about, here's your opportunity. You're in the space where you can do that right now. And I bring this up because I'm actually talking to a few that, to their credit, are doing exactly that. They're putting in programs, experimenting with things. They're like, yeah, I'd never tried this in January, but here it is in July. Yeah, I can do this now, right? Now's the time to toy with that stuff so that come high season, you are ready to go.
If I were asked what would be the one technology tool that I would choose, I mean, I think that everybody definitely wants the contactless check-in and things like that. But you know what? It would be a communication tool for my team, because I just don't have the time to train every single individual in the entire company one by one, and they come and they go. If I communicate the vision and how we're going to do it and all the great ideas that we have and the things that we've learned, and everybody is chiming in with their own videos expressing something really wonderful that they're doing that they think that everybody else should know, then I have a body of work so that when someone starts off at a company, they know what we're about, what we care about, what we prioritize. that we're here for you, that there's a place where if you don't know what you're supposed to do, you can find information on it on your phone, or you know how to get that information.
I don't
It
want
is
to let
not expensive.
you bring up a really good point. I don't want to lose. I want to bring back to something we started with and then go into this community, because I think you're hitting on something very profound. Just personally, that I think what we're talking about at this point also is the issue that I've talked about with milestones, goals, and benchmarks, is until we get to a certain threshold, a condition that has been predetermined by whomever, then a solution doesn't get forwarded. I mean, right now, and I mean this sincerely, I think a lot of businesses are looking to reclaim a lot of their losses before they do any sort of reinvestment into what they're doing. Look, I got to make up some of the blood I lost this past year before I can start putting more money into the things. You preach to the choir. I know I need a new tech stack. I know I need more people. I know I need to change salaries. I know I don't have the current coffers to do this. I've been bled down to the point where I only have this much money to sustain operations. I need to reclaim some of that, which then leads to other poor decisions, or the decisions that they make, of overselling their service capacity, of racking rates that shouldn't exist for what they're offering as product, and burning their bridges in future tense lifetime value of people and or repeat business simply to make the dollar now that they need to put back into the coffer that they feel that they have to balance back out. I think that is an influence on a lot of company businesses right now. But and then in those milestones that people artificially put in their head, like, well, when we get to this point, we'll do this, or when we get to here, we'll do this, or once we get past this, we'll do this. Okay. But you bring up a really good point, Adele, and that is, you think about all the successful communication channels that exist in other places of the world. For instance, the military. Every squad person now has microphone headsets. That was always the thing. You watch the old movies and it's like, and there's hand gestures, because they had to communicate, but they couldn't be, and that's probably still exists. But the idea that they're in real time talking, and the fact that there's drones flying around and telling the soldiers where all the bad guys are and all this other stuff is communication. It's information and communication. Okay. So let's take my really crappy example of putting in somebody into the line of fire at a front desk that wasn't fully trained. Putting a headset on them and letting them connect to somebody that might have the answers might help lessen the damage that they were causing by simply that person going, hey, look, I'm stuck. This person wants XYZ and I don't know how to do XYZ. Okay, look at your screen, right? Upper left-hand corner, click that. At least maybe that would dampen it down. It's not the best solution, but it's certainly better than not giving them that part. Then look at our industry, Four Seasons. Back before there was better technology, I used to love looking at the Four Seasons staff because it reminded me of the CIA, the little headbuds with the little wires and the little talky things, and that's how they did stuff. And with the Four Seasons experience, you showed up and the person opening your door, welcome to Four Seasons, blah, blah, blah. Who do we have the pleasure of introducing or inviting today? And my Lauren Gray. Okay, Lauren Gray. And boom, by the time you hit the door, the doorman was already talking about your name. By the time you went into the lobby, you weren't going to the front desk. You're greeted by the person that was going to introduce themselves to bring you to your room with your name, knowing your history of where you were, knowing what you were there for, when the last time you were there, what you did the last time you were there. Mr. Grace, by the way, I noticed that you enjoyed our spa last time. I just took the liberty of going over and holding a little time. If you're interested, we can, woo! And it was all from what you just said, Adele, communication. It was making sure we all knew what was going on. And people were just amazed, like, oh my gosh, I love this place, and it's true, they should, because that's what they focused on, was that. Now,
you know what, I once was talking to John Tapawada, the general manager of the Casablanca Hotel, whose hotel was number 1 on TripAdvisor, or number 2 or number 3 for years, but it was solidly number 1 without a day at number 2 for 3.5 years in a row. And he said to me, Adele, the staff perform so well because they feel so comfortable, because they know exactly what our goal is. They know exactly what is important to us. They know exactly that, whatever they do in order to make sure that that guest is in love with us and just feels like family. that we absolutely give them permission to do what they need to do within just some reasonable parameters, of course, that that come with the training. But they are free to do what they need to do to make people happy, because that we want customers for life. That knowing that gives them so much freedom. And because when there was a problem, if there's a problem, he would take them and say, come with me. Just had a complaint by somebody. I'm going to talk to them. Why don't you come with me so you see how we handle it? And that side by side training is amazing. And I just wish that I could have him record everything that he does, so that anytime if he ever left the company, that would be in the archives for anybody else that came.
You bring up another excellent point as well, and that is trust. Everybody on your team knows who's the weakest link on whatever it is that they're a weak link on. Not everybody's a weak link on everything, but and so if you're not culling the herd, so to speak, if you're not keeping a standard of performance for everyone that everyone is pacing themselves against, then you get people where, oh, Bob's up there, good luck with that, because they already know Bob's not going to do well. You need to, and going back to the military angle again, from a squad's point of view, you need to trust that the person to your left is watching your left. The person to your right is watching your right. You're watching the front. They're trusting you that you're watching the front. That team spirit of collaboration, that pace that you just talked about, everybody was trying to excel because they're measured against everybody else excelling as well. And not in a highly competitive, negative Shark Tank way, but in a, we're part of the same collaboration. I want to be worthy of whom I'm a part of the team of. That willingness to be a part of a good team. When you get that culture, it's magic. I mean, everybody is finding ways to do better. Everybody is helping each other too, and not helping to finding ways to do better so that they can shine. They're finding ways so that we all shine. It comes out being that we did well. This person had an amazing experience with us, not because of exactly one little thing I did or one little thing Dean did or you did. It's the fact that cumulatively there was never a missed beat. I trusted Dean and Adele to do exactly what I did, was to make sure that everything we could do was done, and that guest had what they wanted to. We're talking about almost wishful, oh, remember those days, because a lot of hotels, that's not what they're thinking right now. They're thinking, you know what? I got one warm body. That's all I got. And they're looking to blame somebody else. They're looking to say, look, hey, it's not my problem. It's not my fault. I didn't create this scenario. I can't create, people out of thin air. I can't, but the ownership is telling me to sell every room I have when I know I can only service half of them. But I want my paycheck. So I'm going to do this, and it's their problem if they lose guests, and it's my problem for whatever. If they can't pay me anymore, I'll go find another job.
Yeah, I interviewed also Jeff Kulik, the general manager. I think he's vice president also of the London Hotel in West Hollywood. And you know what? I really knew him from people who worked for him at one point in their lives, and say what an incredible mentor and an incredible hospitality leader he was. And, he said if people would just stop treating viewing their staff members as a pair of hands and believing that they're just there to pick up the paycheck, and they treat them as future leaders, it's amazing what people will do for you. And it is so satisfying to know that you're really helping people bloom and helping people rise to the occasion and grow. And I think that path to professional development, that you can just come to this country and start out from wherever you are and get a job in hospitality, work hard, do well, participate, learn, enjoy loving service and making people happy. And you can, just like anybody else can, become as far as, grow as far as you want to go in your profession. and really change your circumstances for yourself and for the people you love. And I really believe in that. And yet the other day, is it Sloan Dean? Is that his name? From
Sloan,
Remington Hotel?
yep.
What?
CEO.
I almost cried yesterday because I read I think Jason Fried put it out on the Hotel Recovery that he said, people are just showing up for their paycheck and they're not interested in the professional path. I just can't believe that he really feels that way.
Well, I have opinions about Sloan is brilliant, by the way,
I know he is, and I know he's such a good person.
Well, and but also Sloan has gotten to be about Sloan Dean. I'm sorry, he used to be so much different than what he was now. Now that he's in charge of the company, it's Sloan Dean says, and Sloan Dean does, and I almost kind of feel, because of his obligation at his current level, that this was a disclaimer to answers that he's given ownerships that he's responsible to now, as to why he's having obstacles with stuff. Because if you look at some of the old Sloan Dean stuff, Sloan Dean was always at places celebrating staff members and associates and achievements and culture and that camaraderie of what the company was representing. And that was one of the companies that hacked a lot of people away. They furloughed a whole lot of people under Sloan's leadership. And then now Sloan is in charge, and he has to answer to people as to why their performances are changing. And it's not a financial choice. For the first time, his incredible knowledge about revenue management, yielding, business operations, legalities of asset management and so forth. This is, to our point, a human issue. It's not a business issue. It's a human issue. And I'm not trying to bash Sloan. Sloan, again, I told you, is absolutely freaking brilliant. It just,
indeed,
I've seen his personality change over time. Personally, I feel, this is all my personal opinion, is that I think he's now in the role that he is in, has to start laying track on reasons why he can't influence the things that he used to take credit for, that they weren't there for that reason. He was the product of success of the business that they did was because of how they were doing business at the time. And now that isn't how they're doing business. And he has to explain that. So I don't know, but I agree with you. It's sad that somebody in leadership of a large organization, as large as they are, is throwing in the towel and saying, it's just these people don't care. Wow. Thanks for solving the problem.
Sloan, call me.
Yeah.
Call me and let me talk to you about it, because I really do believe, as hospitality leaders, it's our responsibility to inspire our team to love the idea of serving people. It is our responsibility to make them feel like a very important and valuable player, and that it is our responsibility to train and coach and empower and let each individual fulfill their full potential as a contributor. And if people don't care, very often it's because they perceive that we don't care about them, and we don't care about solving the problems of the guests, which are being ignored.
Yeah, I was just saying, Theo mentioned that Remington, Sloan is Remington. I welcome anybody, including Sloan, to ever come back and express his opinion about this, because I get the benefit of being a third-party person not responsible for the levels of responsibility he has. So I get to have an opinion about, like, hey, I don't know all the things you're dealing with, but from the outside, you look like you've changed from this to this. I'm sure there's all good reasons for it. He represents millions of dollars of investment. His asset control was something he did for a long time, and his revenue management is brilliant. I mean, I spoke at his thing in Dallas. I've talked to him. I've known him personally, everything else. I'd say the same thing to him. It's like, look, dude, you've changed. This would not be something I thought you would say 6 years ago. I don't think you would, because you were 6 years ago taking pictures with housekeepers saying, isn't it great we have this program? Isn't it great that we have a team like this? And now you're saying, hey, these people, man, they just want a paycheck. What the heck? Yeah. Why the change? Because of the role he's changed in. He's now the CEO of the place.
Okay. I've got to reel us in and stop talking about Sloan here for a minute.
No talking about Sloan anymore. Sloan, come on.
I'm going to play Lily here for a second. Reel it all back in. I have a revenue management question for everyone. I saw we had Theo, and Theo, if you're who I think you are, you'll have an opinion on this as well. So I saw a survey on LinkedIn the other day, and on it they were posting a scenario where they had a hotel at 90% occupancy, and the owners or corporate, whoever it may be, really wanted to hit 100% occupancy. They wanted to have full sellout, right? And in spite of the revenue manager saying, hey, 100% is not necessarily as important as you might think it is. And again, Lauren, as you brought up staffing concerns, all those different elements too. But the owner was still insistent, no. I want to get that perfect sellout. Okay, cool. So they were posting, all right, how do we do this, knowing that the owner has gone all in on saying they want to do this? And they posted 4 different options. One was to, of course, drop price, right? So am I just going to drop the price down until I sell out? 2 was to actually raise rates and control those last 10%. 3 was to add value. So actually increase rates and values. So it's a little bit more expensive, but you're getting more for it. And the 4th one was to add length of stay. All right. Now, I will tell you that, so on LinkedIn, when you click on one of them, you get to see the current results. The one that was the favored, or the had the most responses of those 4, was the add value and increase the prices on it. Okay. I have my own opinion on that, but before I put my opinion out, I want to hear everybody else. Theo, I'd love to hear yours. Oh, Theo, I think you're linking to it there, actually. That's probably the one. Let's see.
Well,
No, that's
something else. Oh, that's something else. Okay, never mind.
That's the continuation of the conversation from Sloan. So even
trying
though
to
you
get off
tried to get
Sloan,
rid of it, it came back at you. No, I'm just
done with Sloan.
yeah, and we're not out here to go over and point people out. It's the unfortunate reality of us as an industry looking. We always want to cast blame, and we always want to point at people other than.
So when we talk about revenue management,
well, revenue management. First off, I agree with you. 100% occupancy. The revenue manager is correct. There should not be the mantle of holy grail 100% occupancy. It doesn't. We mathematically we know that is never a good thing. There's a diminished value of return and so forth and so on. Capacities, wearability on the capital product, all that kind of stuff. To answer your question, I would say, in all honesty, if you truly were trying to strive for 100% occupancy, your only real lever is lowering rate. And you can value add all you want, but if you have, because you're basing the answer of adding value on unconstrained demand, and you don't know the demand to market. So because of that, you're assuming by creating a modifier of value that their demand unconstrained will fill that gap that you have. It's not. The only thing that you can do to do 100% occupancy at that demand cycle where you're only 10 points off from your market demand is to steal demand from another supplier by augmenting your rate to taking it from them. I'm not saying it's what you want to do. I'm just saying that if you're looking for that holy mantle of 100%, then lower your rate and get the 100%.
So my concern on the answer that was given was, or the favorite answer was, again, upping the rate and adding value. My concern on that was that you've got 90% of your hotel booked without the added value. Granted, they're at a lower rate, but they didn't get the added value, right? So now what if even just 1% of those 5 people come in and say, well, wait a minute, why didn't I get that? Does that create a problem for your existing business?
No, because you raise the rate. I mean, people know they can't get into first class without paying for it. So if you have a higher rate and you're offering value to it, you can't whine about the fact, why didn't they get free dinner like they got free dinner? Well, they freaking paid for it because they paid more.
Yeah.
I mean, that rationale fits. If you gave increased value without raising the rate, now you got a problem.
There you go.
But by raising the rate and adding value, okay,
where
the people that didn't get it say, hey, I didn't want it anyway, so I didn't have to pay for it.
Where I would have seen I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, where I would have seen the opportunity is actually kind of a combination, a hybrid of what you said. Yes, I need to lower the rate to get that last 10%, but being cautious of the fact that, by the way, you've got 90% of your people booked, and now you're putting a lower rate out there. So tying that to a length of stay, because now, yeah, I'll give you that lower rate, but I got to have a 3-night length of stay out of it. If I'm that close to being full, anybody else coming in, I want you to be here a while.
I definitely, I don't actually think we make people change their minds that we're coming for a 1-night stay and it's going to make them stay for 3 nights. No,
I don't want that traveler.
But saying no, once you're within your range where I have 7 days coming up and I can sell that many rooms on that day in one day. So why am I going to allow that to happen when I can put it on no arrival to help it do the earlier day if that's
Yeah.
what I need, or just make it a minimum stay? It depends on the situation. Sometimes no arrival works better than a minimum stay, depending on what you're looking for. So I definitely feel that restrictions are super important on getting a full house. But I was always happy with 92, 95% occupancy, 96% occupancy. But when it came to, as I came up to the week and I had 95% occupancy, I was, what am I going to do to sell those last few rooms? And usually it's marketed, or tell the front desk to be flexible, or sometimes lowering the rate of your suite for an upgrade, for example, at the last minute can help your, well, that helps really more with the ADR, but sometimes it can
Sure.
close the deal too,
Yeah.
make it more attractive than another place. Sometimes we make our suites so much more than the rooms that you end up just upgrading people without any extra money. It doesn't make any sense. You should use that in your marketing. That's how I feel. Now, I am definitely all for the value add, because I came from the last 20 years having people would tell me that, wow, your hotel's ADR is just astonishing, and your average your occupancy is amazing, because we gave the wine and cheese and the breakfast and the all day coffee, tea, cookies, and fruit in the club room, along with really warm, welcoming service in that club lounge. And it helped make people love us. And it really enhanced, and it was a differentiator between us and every other hotel. The cost to deliver that per person was extraordinarily low compared to, it was a small percent of the value add. If you paid for that in New York, for a couple, it might be over $200 if you really took advantage of everything.
Yeah.
But what it actually cost us was quite minimal, because we were giving it to everybody. So we were buying, consistently in bulk and with contracts, and of course, and I'll tell you, so that works amazingly well.
So now let's take it to the other extreme, not doing like the stay restrictions and stuff like that, but tying into one of Robert's articles today. Sabre partners with By Hours to sell rooms by the hour.
Mhm.
And most of us who have been in hospitality for a while, when we say rooms by the hour, takes a whole different meaning, actually, that historically has been a much different type of clientele. But in the last year with COVID, that by the hour has been office space, right? So let's think about that scenario. So I've got that extra, maybe I have 4% left of my occupancy, or 10%, whatever. By the hour, is that something I'm willing to do? Sell out a couple of rooms as office space?
It was really difficult for us to do it. Every time I considered the option of having the day use in the highly occupied hotels, it just didn't make sense, because I didn't want to, everybody wanted to check in the morning and check out in the evening. I
Yeah.
didn't have the staff to fit in another turnover of that room. And right now, people don't have the staff to do the turnover. They are not selling rooms that they absolutely can sell for tonight. They are leaving them unbooked because they don't have anybody to clean the room before you check in today. So how are you going to fit in a 1 hour room? And do you really want to attract that kind of business? I was just reading something that somebody wrote, that they have a problem with locals coming in for one night, and then they don't have enough money. They try to extend the day. They don't have enough money on the card. They feel that people are doing it over and over again. They feel it's like drugs, or it could be trafficking, or could be some kind of nonsense going on. Why are they using a prepaid card anyway instead of a credit card? So many problems coming up with it. Do you really want that ruining the experience of your hotel, trashing your room? That is burns on the carpet, all kinds of terrible things. Why do you want that? Have some integrity. The guests in your hotel, the kind of guests that you have in your hotel, are part of the experience.
The whole digital nomad working from a hotel as my office, that's become a popular thing in the past year.
Absolutely. And so I would definitely sell it from 9 a.m. until 7 p.m. And I would sell it at full price, but I wouldn't sell it for an hour. I mean, unless I was getting a full, you can stay for an hour as long as you book it for a full day.
I'm believing. I had a hotel that's actually going and being torn down finally, Hotel Penn, in New York, and we had deliberated with a platform that was trying to grow. What was it called? It was a day. It was, the idea of it was for those that were flying over and had just short layovers between flights and or things, and they had gap points, that the hotel could sell the same room that was still going to be used that evening earlier by somebody that just needed it for downtime. Just, I need someplace to be for 3 to 6 hours before I go someplace else, and it's not like I'm having to have the room for the whole evening and so forth. It never seemed to quite fit into the cost ratio versus the aggravation ratio versus the opportunity ratio. Because at first it was like, oh, great, we have downtime rooms. It requires double cleaning and all this other stuff, but is it worth it? We get to sell it for a little, and I guess it's the stigma of it still it kind of floats around with this, like no-tell motel kind of mentality, like here's your towels and stuff.
I did do it for one hotel in Toronto, because it was a big hotel and it wasn't fully sold out. So I did have plenty of available rooms, and I could just say, these rooms cost just as much as if you stay overnight, but you have it from 9 until 7. And you get to just spend the day with us, enjoy the resort facilities, and do your work, get your workout, go to the pool, whatever you need to do. And but the same cost. I do believe that you should have flexibility, because imagine if you are flying in from another country. I wish that was happening more right now. And your flight comes in at 7 a.m. and you need a place starting at 9 and ending at 7 so that you can go back to the airport and fly out, and you want to make it more of an experience. They should pay for that full day, but they shouldn't have to pay for 2 days if it's not displacing a 2-night booking. That's the key.
All right. I think what we'll have, and this really depends on the traveling cycle, it's so hard. I mean, given current circumstances, we see all this business that's rolling. I mean, Dean, just before we started, we made the comment, 600 million people are flying and estimated this weekend. 38 million plus people are driving this weekend. It is up 600% compared to what was happening last year, which is not even a fair comparison. As I mentioned, taking numbers in comparison to last year to this year. Purpose of travel, we talked about as being hopefully different than what it was last year. But all said and saying, it's hard for us to rationalize what future business opportunities like this are going to look like once this tsunami hits and recedes and more business cycles begin to roll in. Have we, as a society, culturally changed our travel interests? Haven't it taken away from us? Have we now cherished it more, the idea of travel? Of now that we have experienced the fact that we couldn't travel for reasons this past year, to distance makes the heart grow fonder kind of mentality. Having had it taken out of our lives, have we now found a new sense of value to it that we maybe took for granted up to the point where we had it taken away from us? And from that reason, we're going to have lots more excuses to travel, blending it with work differently, blending it with family differently. durations being different, destination interests, like I'm going to hit my bucket list sooner, mentality of like, I'm going to go to these places now rather than thinking I was going to do it whenever I thought I was going to do it. I'm going to put them into my timeline now. It changes a lot of that in that sense.
As a person who
Absolutely.
used to travel at least once a month on business, and then granted that's more business travel, but I tell you, when the pandemic hit and all that came to a standstill, I started getting a little twitchy and like I need to be going somewhere. And I, for one, am very anxious to get back on the road again.
It's funny. We have our dialogues here, and we talk about the tangible implementation of things. I think more closely to the rubber meets the road mentality, the functional solution processes that hotels are trying to face. And then there's other programs that go in and talk about the higher level dialogues of large shifting and moving of companies, how companies are blending their large strategies with other concepts and so forth. And you see the conversations in Clubhouse, you see other broadcasts and so forth. All those conversations are valuable because even though I listen to some programming that's talking with some CEO, go back to the Sloan thing for just the lack of a reference point. People like Sloan that are talking about high level perspectives. Okay. I can look from the ground level and go, why is that? Why are you saying that? Why are you doing that stuff? They have their reasons. They have their purposes. They're responsible for a lot of stuff, and massive amounts of money and massive obligations of money and everything else. And they have to make very large decisions that, from my perspective, is like, well, that doesn't seem that way. I'm probably, I'm trying to make amends to the fact that we're not trying to, call anyone out for it, but there's people at levels that are making some very high level decisions about mergers and so forth, that the decisions are based on macroeconomics, that they have to balance out large cost decisions and take the lesser cost decision, even though we look at it and go, well, that doesn't seem to make much sense. Why wouldn't you do this instead? Because our perspective is from our own. I mean, it goes back to the person that lives on a farm all their life versus somebody that's traveled the world. Who's happier? The person that doesn't know differently outside of their own world, or the person that's aware of the whole world but appreciates what they've seen? There's different perspectives at play. I think as an industry, though, cumulatively, we're struggling with the thought process of how do we solve that? Can those two worlds exist concurrently? The big decisions that may be negative to a large scale of people in our perspective versus the simple things we think should get done that cost a lot for the people from their perspective. It's a funky mix. I mean, again, going back to some of Robert's list, there's some big decisions being on that I don't think really that people understand the ramifications. That whole hotels.com headline list that he put out there, the fact that other platforms can offer different rates and not be penalized for parity to hotels.com.
I think it was booking.com, actually, wasn't it?
No, it was hotels.
Booking.com?
Maybe it
I
was.
thought it was hotels. Hold on, let me go look again. I think it was hotels, but let me see real quick. No, it is. You're right. Booking.com. Booking.com.
Yeah, it was in Europe, like Germany, I think,
Yeah.
if I remember right.
In Germany, yeah, they decided that other platforms can offer better rates if they have them available without penalization as to, well, Booking.com says it can only offer the best rate.
Rate parity clauses.
The only thing I'm interested in is that the hotel has the right to offer exclusive packages and offers on their own website. I don't mind having the OTAs at the same rate. That makes a lot of sense. They can duke it out between themselves as long as me, the hotelier, for the direct business, that I always have something available just for people who come to my website directly. And I think that the decision protected that. I'm not sure I understood it, but I think that the decision protected the hotel's availability, or I'm sorry, opportunity to have the lowest rate themselves.
So I'm a fan of Book Direct. I believe Direct is best, and I love it when a hotel can offer the lowest rate for Booking Direct, but we can't always do that. Step out of hospitality for just a moment and think about your manufacturing retail environment. Apple comes out with a new iPhone, or anybody comes out with a product, and Best Buy is selling it, Walmart is selling it, Amazon is selling it, whatever the case may be. But you will not find that iPhone outside of AT&T gives you credits, that kind of stuff. So outside of special package deals and contracts and stuff like that, the product itself you will not buy for less than this price.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah, well, it's what's referred to as a minimum advertised price policy. and it's something that happens between manufacturing and retail, and it has to be policed. Actually, they have this kind of like rate parity for retail. They have to go out there and monitor that and see, okay, is Walmart advertising this for less than the minimum advertised price? But part of the reason they do that is because as they're distributing it to all these different companies out there, little company G over here comes in and says, well, companies A, B, C, D, and E are all selling this too. How do I compete with them? I can't compete with the Best Buy. They're going to offer that lower than I am. And the answer is, well, because nobody can sell at below this threshold. So it creates a level playing field. However, the big loophole in that whole thing is it means it's a minimum advertised price. That doesn't mean that you can't put a lower price in your store. Meaning if I go to your brick and mortar store and I show up at your counter and say, yeah, can you offer that for me at a lower price? You better believe you can offer that for a lower price. Same thing for booking direct, right? If somebody comes direct to you, you have that opportunity to undercut everybody.
But what if they come to your website?
Well, see, then that becomes an advertised price. That's where there's a little bit of a challenge in there. I like undercutting the OTAs. I'm in favor of that. Don't get me wrong. But that creates those parity agreements because now all your distributors who are also trying to sell your room and want an equal shot at it are going, hey, what about me?
Yeah. Well, that's why I say have an exclusive package, because that is just something that you can't get someplace else. Your bar rate, you gave them the same bar rate. That you have that bar rate, they have that bar rate, they have that bar rate. That's okay. But now that's that called best available rate is really your worst available rate. It's your highest rate, right? And then you have discounts based on length of stay or whatever season, some extra perk is offered in it, those things, or having a longer cancellation time or prepaid non-refundable. Those days are going to come back, because when people start canceling like crazy with absolutely no regard to the airline or the hotel, the hotels will all be right there with it. They may already be, actually.
This probably won't be such a big problem at the moment, or so much of an impact at the moment, considering that everybody is able to offer or ask for optimum rate at this point because of the demands that are emerging. People are pretty much everybody's in concert of higher rates and so forth. It's probably when we get into the higher competitive cycles again, where we're having to facilitate which channel gets used by what rate is being offered, that this will begin to show more impact potential. Because right now, I think everybody is like, what's the rate at the back of the door? Okay, that's the rate we're putting up on our platform. And everybody's putting that out. Go ahead.
It's interesting because I would have thought the same. But when I've been speaking with hoteliers near me in the Carolinas and say, guys, just raise your rates a little bit and pay the housekeepers more. Just do it. Just pay your front desk people a little bit more. They need it. They feel that they need it to live. And if you don't want them to leave your hotel and go to another hotel, just pay them what they're looking for. And they'll say, it would be okay if the government made the minimum rate this much. That way, if the minimum hourly rate was this much and everybody made it like that, and everybody raised their rates in unison, because in order to accommodate that would be okay. But for me to raise my hourly rate, and then I have to raise my overnight rate accordingly, now I'm not in competition. So they're very worried about the competition. Actually, to my surprise, they're not. I don't think that they are at their peak.
Yeah, I think you're pointing out something that is systemic issue for us as an industry, and I don't think we're exclusive on this by any stretch. And that is culpability and responsibility. What you're basically saying is that if everybody does it, I'll do it, which is it's not under my control or my influence. And I say that from the types of revenue managers. And this is just, there's revenue managers who say this is the price. And people will back into the value of what that price means. Like, well, it must be because of something, or that value must be because of this. And then you have other revenue managers who are like, this is the price, as if they're, if you buy it, then that's the price. If it's not, then what would be the price? And what do you think you'd be willing to pay? That uncertainty of it, because they're not confident in what they're selling. The value of what they think it is versus the price they think they can ask for it. There's a disparity between the two. We come across revenue managers all the time that they have a resistance to raising rate for a couple of things. I think one, politically, is if their performance or their everyone likes to come into a room with good news. Everyone wants to go to their boss with what I've done positively, not like that's what I did. So when you start pushing things that you're uncertain about, and the results are potentially initially negative, whether that's long-term or not, that creates a resistance, especially how the boss reacts to it. If they react of, don't ever do that again. Well, guess what? You're never going to have that risk taken again. That person is not going to put themselves into jeopardy with their superior, a supervisor, on doing something that got that kind of response. If the supervisor is like, hey, you tried and it didn't work. Okay, now we know that isn't really something we can do at this point, this is the rate we can get. That whole dynamic is probably one of the key elements to what you just pointed to, Adele, is to the success ratio of what you can actually ask for. The idea of saying, well, if everybody else charges this per hour, or the first pushback that I get when you bring up that argument like you did is, well, my rates isn't directly connected to what I pay my people. I have to pay everything else too, and everything else is more expensive, and everything else I haven't had money for, and I need to put money back into my account so that I can pay for this stuff. PMS platforms don't grow on trees. There's deposits and things and like blah, blah, blah. I need to have enough money to do that where I'm not putting myself below a threshold of operation, which is what most people look at. Is like, what is my liquidity for paying my bills daily? And what is it that I have monies for other than that I can actually dedicate towards? Now you have software companies who have also been struggling, going, well, that's the setup fee. We can't waive it. We can't split up the payments. You got to pay $50,000 up front for us to start putting this together, because we need that money to pay our people to do the work for you. So now we create all these dominoes of conditions that are stopping us from actually being better, because everybody's holding their ground going, well, that's what you have to do, and I'm not going to give it to you until that happens. And somebody's got to blink and say, okay, you know what? I'm willing to not do it this way to get you this opportunity under the good faith trust that it's going to work out that way. You're going to pay me broken up or whatever it is, whatever the conditions are. And a lot of companies aren't doing that yet. Now, there's some that do, but there's a lot that don't. And that's been I think an issue where it goes all the way up to the revenue manager's decisions. Can I push rate? Because is my boss going to let me push rate? Do I think I can actually ask for more rate? And,
if you're in sales, marketing, revenue, and you're not absolutely every day testing to see how far you can push your rate, you're not doing the job you were hired for. So if the general manager or hotel owner tells you don't push the rate, I don't know what a person is supposed to be doing. If are we not responsible for optimizing the revenue at our hotel? There's no way you can do that without testing and failing, testing and succeeding, testing and failing, testing and test. That's the way to do it. That's the only way to do it. When I get a bunch of reservations for a particular day, I go, I'm going to up that rate, and even if it's just by $20, depending on how much time I have, or by $40, whatever. And if reservations come to a standstill, I went too far, I went down, but that's the process. That's me trying to see how far I can push it, because you know what, as much as we think that we set the rates, the market is going to tell you what they're willing to pay.
Right.
And at some point they're going to say, I'm sorry, I was willing to pay $40 more than the hotel next door, but I'm not willing to pay $80 more than the hotel next door.
Right.
But when I interview someone and I ask them, so tell me, what's your philosophy of revenue management? how do you define it? How do you go about it? Well, the first thing I do is I look at what everybody else is charging. That is the worst way to start the conversation with me, because I want to believe that my revenue manager is going to be more clever and the lead, taking the lead, and that everybody else will be watching what we do, not the other way around.
But that's a great question to ask, because you can immediately tell what kind of revenue manager you have. Are they browbeaten down to do whatever it is that they're told not to do again? And just because I want to see this expression on Dean's face when I say this, Sloan Dean was brilliant at this. I mean, truly he was. No, and I mean this. Honestly, he created the core for them. He created the core rate variation program. Yeah. I just love it. You think I'm not, it's all, actually, I have amazing respect for the man. He's absolutely freaking brilliant. And when it came to revenue management, one of the most, if not the most brilliant person I know about revenue management. But that doesn't mean I still can have my opinions about him. But he created a model that you just talked about, Del, of variations of rate to always push parameters of demand. He created a model. It's not like he just made a little chart with little lines to connect it. He created an operational revenue modelable construct for this. I mean, again, can totally respect a person until I have an opinion about him. So, Dean, I just did that to make you smile. It's the Sloan Dean hour. No, it's he is a great guy. Honestly, you just sometimes look at him like, wow.
Failure and accepting failure, not as failure, but as learning, is central to becoming great and reaching your full potential and innovating every day. And one more thing, sorry. And if your boss or the person who hired you or the general manager or the owner of the hotel is saying, don't ever do that again, I mean, how unempowering is this? How on earth do you expect that your team is going to perform when you have fear in the building?
Right.
The best thing you can do is make your team feel fearless.
Now, that doesn't mean to say that you can't go and say, well, that didn't work. Let's try something else, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's not do that again.
That's how you learn.
It's a much different, it's the same message, but a much different way of how you approach it and how you present it. And for that revenue manager, hopefully you've got some historic data. We talked about looking at all of the comp set and all the hotels in the area. Who cares what they're doing? What does your data show you? If you've got some historic data, that's going to be more intelligent for you than what the guy across the street is doing, unless you're a new build hotel. Okay, so you're a new build. But even if you're a new build, surely the people building and owning your hotel have done some market research and have some expectations about where you ought to be in that, right? So there ought to be some foundations that you can work from.
There's only four scenarios that usually play into a market from a revenue manager's perspective. Either you are the market leader to your segment of your product. You have a peer that does what you do in equality of like you're both going back and forth as to what you each do, or you follow, which means whatever somebody else does, you pattern your performance metrics off of what they're doing to what you do. And then there's this amazing mix that's only happened once that I've ever personally experienced, where everybody in the market is their own leader. And each property reflects its current unique value that each revenue person has designated their rates, not in comparison and reflection to anything in their market, but to what they are in their own market, what their product represents themselves to be. Only once have I ever seen that rarefied unicorn air that had where everybody in that comp set was their own leader, their own rate strategist, their own method and process. And all that the STAR report reflected was the variations of people wrestling between which position they were rolling between, depending upon the demand of market. Did their salespeople do good on their group sales? You could see it in their rate strategy. Did their people do well on their group, their blocks and construction? You could see it in the rate strategy. And everybody did their own thing, not because of what everybody else did, but in spite of what everybody else did, because they were doing it according to what their business was. It was really amazing when that was.
Were they all
What market?
Huh?
What market was
it was in New York. It was in New York, Adele.
Yeah,
it was in New York. It was just
independent.
Huh? It was a mix, but there was one brand hotel in it, but everybody else was independent.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
The independents can get away with that a little bit better than what the brands can.
Yes, but the brand, because they were in the market because of what they offered, because of their common space and their block of room. Holy geez, who the hell's that? We got hacked.
Yay!
Who the hell is
Wow.
that?
Welcome
Don't let me
back.
Hey, you talking about Sondine?
When did the host of the show get replaced with Steven Seagal? So
yeah, sorry, dude. Yeah, that went to I'm trying to keep my good side because I went to the dermatologist, so I'm like over like this, like I don't like the Band-Aid doesn't stay on, and it looks dorky anyway, so I got to go like this a lot.
Well, how the heck is everyone?
Oh, dude, great!
Tell us about Myrtle Beach for Memorial Day.
Yeah,
Wow, it's booming. We just I'm in my beach attire. We did a Facebook Live video with Neutrogena this morning. Today is National Sunscreen Day, also known as Friday. Get it? So we did a video with them this morning. But Myrtle Beach is hopping, man, and it really has been. So for those of you who don't know, I've jumped ship to the dark side. And now I'm on the DMO side of things. And
that's not the dark side.
promoting
That's the Old Republic.
Dun, 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 dun.
it's yeah, like Darth Vader up there. But yeah, we've had a record spring. I mean, we were very early. If you remember last year, we were one of the first destinations to open back before last year's Memorial Day, and we did a lot of protocols in place to make sure folks could travel safely and do the right things. And we really didn't have a bad last year. It was pretty solid. We were leading the nation until Orlando came back online with their parks is when we dropped to number 2, but we've remained number 2 steadily throughout. And so I think we're on a lot of lists. We're one of the top flight destinations, and which is new for us, and because we've just had Southwest come in with 10 new direct flights, and all the other airlines. We've now got 9 carriers, and they've all expanded their routes. And then AAA announced that we were the second most popular drive destination this Memorial Day weekend as well. So it's
I
busy.
can't wait to go visit.
I know, right? Yeah, you're just around the block.
2
so
hours
you're-
away.
yeah.
Yeah, you need to come up.
I'm definitely going.
Yeah.
Dude, I am so optimistic of the world of CVBs and TDCs now with you in there, because if anybody could talk about influencing the demand market's contribution to the industry, you were like the poster child of that happening. I mean, seriously.
I don't know about that, but we are on a mission to make a little dent in the DMO space. So people better watch out, because we're not going to do things the way that folks have been doing it. I mean, there's a lot of great people doing great things for sure, but we are thinking of Myrtle Beach more than a destination. It is a brand, and we want to figure out ways that we can capture the minds, the hearts, and the dreams of everyone. And one of the things that I've learned over the last few weeks, I started about 3 weeks ago, I've been looking at a lot of the data of the demographics that come here, and I've had a little bit of visibility into that with some of my clients, but now I've got more data to look at. And so we were looking at the demographic breakdowns of folks that visit Myrtle Beach. And so we were looking at ethnicity, age, household income, a bunch of different dimensions. And then we started comparing it to other things that we knew. So one of the really fascinating things is if you look at the demographics of who come here and compare it to the United States as a nation, it's almost identical. We're really appealing to everyone. And one of the interesting things about the Grand Strand, the Myrtle Beach area, is with 14 different communities that all have a little bit of a different flair and a different appeal. You got the downtown boardwalk area that's vibrant and lively and exciting, and but then you've got like the sleepy towns like Pawleys Island and the inland charming towns like Conway. So we've got like a lot of different things going on. 1,800 restaurants. I mean, there's a lot of food.
Wow.
There's a lot of attractions. There's 60 miles of wide open beaches, and it's we're appealing to everyone. And our new brand was just launched like a week after I started. So we are trying to get everyone to refer to us as the beach, because that's the people that come here. They go to the beach, and we're telling everyone that you all belong at the beach, and we'll welcome you when you're ready to travel. So it's a lot of fun. I'm very excited.
Okay, I'm fascinated by some of the new metrics that you have, because now you're dealing with people giving feedback like, well, I want Wi-Fi at the beach, and I want interactive directories and guides, and I don't want to miss the biggest ball of twine and all this other stuff. You got so much more to think about now than what you had before. How do you organize all that?
Well, I'm a long-term thinker. I'm a cathedral planner, right? I know that this is not something I can jump in and just start implementing tactics and get to where I want. So spending a lot of time right now with our partners and, internal and external, in trying to plan out the next 3 years. It's a 3-year plan that I'm working on, but there's 4 core strategic priorities for me. One is, and it aligns with Tim Peters' saying about content is king, customer experience is queen, and data is the crown jewels. So one of them is, which is what you're asking about, is the consumer data side, like the behavioral side of things. We have so many touch points, from phone and visitor guide requests in our website, and we using Flip2 can see folks flow through to our partners, to the hotel's websites, and to book as well. So we're able to see. We're very unique in that we can see the full travel journey, and so we're gonna be figuring out ways that we can build the most, in the right ways, with privacy, with permission based, but we're gonna build the most robust database of consumer behavior, demographics, and psychographics, and all that stuff that anyone's ever seen, and we're gonna be able to leverage that in very smart ways. So that's one of the strategic priorities. Content is another one. Really doubling down on how do we create the best internet experience for people to make decisions so that they can choose which of the 14 communities really makes sense for them, but also really leaning into user-generated content too, and letting that inform us and become a part of our marketing. We believe that, the advocacy stuff that Flip2 does and those photos should become the cornerstone of our messaging in the future, so that we're not showing models and people that look like they may come to Myrtle Beach. We're actually going to be showing real people that come to Myrtle Beach and use them as the cornerstone for our content. But we're going to blow up the content. The other side of data is we're going to get really sophisticated in tracking performance of all the dollars we spend, every penny. Our goal is to be able to track every penny, how it performs. And then the 4th strategic priority is the quality of the product. So I'm going to be investing a lot in education in the marketplace, figuring out ways that we can elevate the quality of the product, the level of customer service, and all that stuff. So it's like I said, it's going to be a 3-year plan. It's going to take a lot of effort from a lot of folks, but we're excited.
Maybe because it's just fresh in my mind, having watched the representation of a local CVB. And we're not going to refer to it in Florida for just purposes of not being bashing, because already Dean's worried that I went over and bashed somebody else already.
I was listening.
Hey, and I didn't. I love the dude. Anyway, your change in what you just said is absolutely the antithesis of what I think most people see CVBs are right now, because it's like whoever gets into the chair guiding that particular CVB or PDC, their agenda, almost politically, and the political perspective, is these are our goals. These are our initiatives. It changes to the mode of the person that's sitting in the chair. And you have literally said, nope, not really. We're going to let what we get as data on these core criteria dictate what our plan strategy is. Mm-hmm. We're not here because I think this needs to be done. We're not going to do this because we as a committee to appease political variations have decided this is going to be done. We're going to say, look, we're going to trust in what we're getting from the people that are wanting and using our product to determine what it is we're going to be providing and making sure that we maintain the standards that they're expecting. Yep. I mean, in a nutshell, you just went over and said, we're going to do it completely different. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't think you really realize how fundamentally different you're approaching this project compared to what I normally see people. For all the times I've had to sit down with CVBs and TDCs, pleading that literally, and I mean this, I was appeasing their personalities to get into their agenda. I know that sounds terrible.
I have no agenda other than I want Myrtle Beach to be the destination that everyone chooses to come to vacation, and that the locals here have an amazing quality of life that is fostered by tourism. That's it. That's my agenda. It's not personal. I have no side priorities. That's it. And so
I want to influence the fact that I think you need to take Adele and make her your spokesman. I think having her with her microphone and doing the whole thing and then being the beat. I'm just throwing in a first vote. I think Adele should be, hi, welcome to Myrtle.
she would do great. She would do great. But we didn't come here to talk about Myrtle Beach.
Oh, yes, we did. Oh, yeah, we did. If not, it's about Sloan Dean, and Dean doesn't like that. So. No, actually, but it's great to see you, to be honest with you. And I mean, it's always great to have Adele and Dean too, but it's also nice that you come back from the fact that last I remember talking with you, it's like, I'm underwater. I'll let you know when I'm breathing again.
Yeah, I'm breathing a little bit. I mean, it's like there's the occasional glug in there as my head goes under, but I'm increasingly buoyant. So yeah.
Hey, it is good to hear what's going on in Myrtle Beach and places like that, because I mean we've certainly seen good things about it in the industry news and stuff like that. But being able to hear from somebody at the source, and it just helps to kind of have an indicator of, hey, what else is going on out there in the world? Where are there opportunities?
Yeah, I think I've spoken with a handful of beach destinations, Daytona, Panama City, others that are kind of similar makeup to Myrtle Beach, although obviously not nearly as good, but they're having similar success. We are breaking almost every record on ADR and occupancy, and it's strong. And the important thing is it's being done safely. The numbers aren't going up. The people that are traveling are being responsible. There's not a lot of negativity coming out of the travel. So like we've said since the beginning, responsible travel is safe. You just got to take care of yourself. And as we increase the number of vaccinations, which we as a state are getting close to that 70% mark, it's only onwards and upwards from here. So it may not be the beginning of the end, but it's certainly, as Churchill said, the end of the beginning. And we're very optimistic about the rest of this year.
Well, it's good that you're doing it safely. I like to hear that, because the one thing that can go really bad for you is if you have a busy Memorial Day weekend and it ends up being on the news like a spring break down in Fort Lauderdale or whatever, where everybody got COVID and crap,
Yeah, I don't think we're going to probably have some scrutiny because it's big. We have a big bike festival over Memorial Day, and we have a lot of families coming too. So it's about as busy as it gets here, right up there with like 4th of July. But we had the dry run last year, and that was a little chaotic. And although there were a lot of people probably acting a little more cavalier than they should, that there wasn't a big full out. The numbers didn't really spike like they could have this time last year. But no, I'm very confident through this year. I think my eye is beginning to turn towards next year, because we're faced with the same challenge that I think a lot of destinations are, which is the worker shortage. And it definitely impacts the quality of service. You're having to wait longer at restaurants. A lot of restaurants are now beginning to limit the tables because it's the right thing to do, right? It's better to leave money on the table and service the people that you can service appropriately than to disappoint everyone. So we're having that worker shortage issue, which is creating a potential service issue, which is potentially affecting some experiences, right? People maybe aren't as happy as they would. And we're in that ever changing kind of battle between guest expectations and guest experience. And we all know that if they're aligned, or if the expectations are slightly below the experience, we're in a good place, and word of mouth is going to spread, and you're going to continue to see repeat business. But when expectations go up at the same time that the experience goes down, and there's a gap between those two, that's when you have a problem. And so right now, expectations are through the roof because people have been locked up. They have a little more disposable income in general, and they're spending a little more. So they think they're going on a vacation of a lifetime, and then they're getting there and then having to wait a little bit longer to check in, and wait a little bit longer to find a restaurant and eat and stuff. So we have a little bit of this going on across the country, right? Not singling out anywhere. And does that have an impact long-term on travel to those destinations? It might. So I think we're a little cautious about how do we tackle that. So we've got a lot of campaigns running about pack your patience. We're engaging and educating the consumer to let them know, hey, when you get here, it's not the normal expectations. It's you gotta set appropriately. You're gonna wait longer, and it's okay. We've all gone through a lot. Everyone's doing the best they can, but we would really appreciate your help by just being a little more patient and tolerant and friendly with the staff, because that's good for everyone.
Did you hear about the Gig Pro app?
No, what is that?
Apparently, it's an app where you can go to, and no matter, let's say you're a server, and you can just see who has openings for gig work, and you can go and do a shift and get paid, and that's it, and then work in another hotel or restaurant the next day.
How cool is that?
It's called Gig Pro, and it was created in Charleston, but it's been getting national attention.
Well, here's an idea. Everyone can come vacation in Myrtle Beach for the summer, and they just do Gig Pro to get jobs throughout the summer, and we'll be good. But you touch on something interesting, Adele. Like I think in my mind, everyone's focused on COVID being the cause for the worker shortage, and I don't think it is. I think it's an accelerator of what was already happening. Because if you remember, prior to COVID, we were talking at every conference about the worker shortage. It wasn't a COVID created thing. It was an industry wide. There were over 1 million job openings in the hospitality industry back in 2019. So I think we're seeing, for some of the things you talked about earlier on the show about how staff are treated, the appeal of the hospitality industry isn't there like it used to be. People don't look at this as a lifelong career where they can have, upward mobility, and that coupled with the onset of the gig economy, so people can put food on their table really easily, right, through Uber and other gig opportunities. So if you just need to get a paycheck, you have flexibility to do that. You also have the younger generation is very, very entrepreneurial. They've been brought up digitally native. They have access to all the knowledge. You can literally learn anything you want at any time on YouTube. You have access to marketplaces that you didn't. So any single individual can create a business within a day and start making money. And the younger folks would rather take that risk than invest in a potential career in hospitality. So I think we have a potential crisis on our hands in the hospitality industry long term, unless we figure out a way to create the workforce to see the value in giving back in hospitality and serving and making a good career. We have to invest in long-term strategies that encourage more folks to come into hospitality. Otherwise, my fear is this is not a gap that's going to go away just because J-1 visas come over. This could be a sea change that we're seeing right now, unless we do something about it.
No, I agree with you. And yeah, you're right. It probably just amplified or accelerated, to your point, the issues that we had. And just as you're talking, I'm listening and I'm thinking about the massive decisions, whether you willfully or knowledgeably made these choices or not, but what you did in your decision process to make them less of an issue. I say that in reflection of where, as obviously travel has become more of an interest and more of a hot button for news features, more and more CVB and TDC people are getting interviewed on camera for stuff like, hey, what are you guys doing on XYZ and X? And to hear them answer compared to how you just answered, and just I'm mentally putting comparisons together. It's like, you're basing it on data decisions. Hey, look, and then you can argue the point. It was like, well, is your data skewed because you're only looking at the data of people that have already used your product, and therefore you're only looking at the people that are most interested? But you're not. You're saying going forward, let's look at what we're doing, but let's do it right and make our decisions based on what we know about what people are coming to for. Just as fundamental as you could have polarized immediately in your role. We're going to be only for maskers. We're going to really highlight the fact that we're totally safe and we're putting protocols in. We're telling everybody, we're putting signs up to wear masks, and we're not wanting anybody here that isn't vaccinated. We're going to do, all this stuff. You didn't go over and say, we're going to create this division. Inherently, a lot of us continue that polarization by how we respond to the other people that don't agree with us. We're just as bad as the people we're disagreeing with by keeping that polarization. You're simply saying, look, let's look at the commonalities of what everybody enjoys coming to us.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure. And it's part of our DNA. I don't know if you know this or not, but Myrtle Beach isn't that old a city. The first resort was built here in the 1920s. And it was we were originally called Newtown, and then we became a place where some of the cotton mill would bring their team for the summer. You know, they built housing and things like that for that. But the first big resort was built. It was called the Ocean Forest Hotel, and it was built because it was right smack in the middle of Miami and New York. So we're halfway between Miami and New York, and so all these people were traveling backwards and forwards, and they felt like this would be a good spot on the beautiful Atlantic Ocean. So we were a melting pot of just different kinds of people, from the rich and famous to just nomads and wanderers and dreamers and artists. And we're still that. The local makeup, no one's been here for generation after generation because we haven't been around that long, you know? So the majority of people here are transplants. Like, I mean, obviously I'm not from Myrtle Beach. I've been here for 20 years, but most people are in my situation. They came and visited here and fell in love with it and came here. And because of that, we have an eclectic group of people, an eclectic group of 14 communities. And our new brand is really leaning into that. We want everyone to find their place in Myrtle Beach. We want everyone to feel like they have a place they belong in Myrtle Beach. All we ask is that you come and you respect the rules and you follow the law, and that you're respectful to the community, and you spend a little money while you're here. That's it, you know, and everyone is welcome. And so it's a really fun message to be putting out at a time when everyone else is trying to pull us apart. So we're really exploring how can we use this narrative, this storytelling in our marketing in new mediums. You know, we're exploring podcasts and webisodes and PBS shows and Amazon Prime shows and all this stuff that is going to be focused on the fact that we're all different, you're all different, but we can all come together and find a place we belong. And it's a really, you can probably tell I'm very passionate about the message.
No, not at all. No, it's very subdued, very
I love everyone,
or
right?
leave it.
That's who I am, and Myrtle Beach is very much that. So,
No. Do you see now that you're sitting there where you are doing what you're doing? Do you see places that you either want to emulate or feel that that you are respecting for what they've done, like Nashville? Nashville, I go back enough that I remember Nashville was a sleepy little secondary market that had some growth space to it, but mainly was eclectically related to its downtown and the bar scene and stuff like this. And now Nashville is a powerhouse when it comes to destination conferences and so forth. And not that you guys want to be that, but I'm just saying, do you look at places like that going,
you know,
what was their modality?
I think I'd be foolish not to at least keep an eye on what other people are doing, right? Because you can get inspiration from that. And you can learn from people's mistakes. Like, I would argue that, yes, Nashville has created a powerhouse destination, right? And it's a lot of fun to go there. But, you know, to quote Tim, when you invent the ship, you invent the shipwreck. They have a few shipwrecks. You know, it's the go-to place for bachelor and bachelorette parties. And if you go down there any evening of any day of the week, I mean, it's like Bourbon Street, you know, on steroids. It's crazy. Going from, you know, the honky tonk bars. It's a lot of fun, but I wouldn't want to take my kids there now, you know. So I think there's lessons to be learned and things to watch. But I've always been someone that, you know, I like the Amazon approach, where you can kind of keep a little bit of an eye on the competition. But if you're focused on your strategy and you believe 100% in your strategy, it doesn't really matter what everyone else does. It's similar to what Dean was saying earlier about rates. Don't worry so much about what the other guy's doing with rates. Just make sure your rates are in line with your demand and your quality of product and your experience, and you'll do fine. It's when you start focusing too much on the competition is when you have those zero-sum games race to the bottom because they lowered their rate. I know I need to lower my rate, and I need it, you know. So I'm not too worried about the competition because I don't think we really have competition in terms of the assets that we have. We have, like I said, 1,800 restaurants, 60 miles of beautiful beaches, 14 very unique communities. There's nothing else quite like Myrtle Beach. And, you know, we're in this Goldilocks zone between New York and Miami where for 90% of the year, the weather is beautiful. You know, it gets a little cool in December, but hey, we're going to turn that around and turn it into a holiday destination, you know. So it's really the Goldilocks zone. I've lucked out landing here
Well,
yeah,
I would say it's
cool.
a little warm in the latter part of summer for golf too. Just having had hotels I had to market from that
You
market.
come spring and fall, man, it's perfect
Yeah.
golf weather. So it's great. And you know what? In the summer when it's 90 degrees, we have over 50 putt courses, mini golf courses. So you can go do that and drink a beer. So there's options for everyone.
Spoken like a true representation. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a complete salesman, right? But it's
What is it
dangerous.
like? How is it
It comes
different
from
dealing with all the condominium owners, that kind of vacation rental kind of thing, instead of as many hotels as most destinations might have?
Well, I think we're very fortunate in that we have a lot of variety of lodging options, right? And depending on where you are in the 60 miles, it can be very different. Like if you go to the extremes, it's almost all vacation homes, and duplexes and things like that. So if you have a family, multi-generation family, and you need 4 or 5 or 10 bedrooms, we have that inventory. Or if you're in downtown Myrtle Beach, you've got true hotels, 400 unit true hotels next to large condominiumized resorts. So if you want a kitchen in separate bedrooms and you want the suites, we have that. But if you just want a standard hotel room, we have that too. So it's a real mix. I think one of the things we've done, which probably a little better than other destinations, is the on-property management companies have done a good job maintaining inventory. You look at other areas like maybe Panama City Beach, and you would have a resort that's 300 units, and there's probably 30 or 40 different companies renting out units from there. And that happens over time, but it's never good for the consumer, because the average consumer that doesn't understand hospitality has no idea that I'm booking a hotel room at this hotel. I expect it to all be the same. We've trained them that brand standards are a thing. So when you go there 2 years in a row and you've just happened to have booked through 2 different management companies, and one room was up to date and had great luxuries, had access to the amenities, and then the next you don't get access to the swimming pool and it hasn't been updated in 10 years. But then you go to TripAdvisor, and who do you blame? You blame the resort, because TripAdvisor does a garbage job of differentiating between on-site and off-site. So it's a challenge every destination has, but I feel like because of the quality of our management companies here, we've defended against it a lot. It's something we need to continue to defend against. But for the consumer, they have choice of product. We've even got Airbnb, and VRBO is fairly strong here. And so really, depending on who you are and what you're looking for, you can find it in Myrtle Beach.
So now Google has taken vacation rentals and those types of lodging accommodations, and they're mixing them in with the search results for accommodations in Myrtle Beach, for example. I haven't looked at that for Myrtle Beach. I tested in a few other areas, and it still tends to, from what I've seen at least, tends to be dominated by hotels, that they sprinkle in a couple of those lodgings. What I'm curious to see, though, a lot of those vacation rentals are a single point of sale model, meaning it's not a meta search. I don't have multiple aggregated points of sale coming up on the Google display. It's usually TripAdvisor is a big one. Holiday Letting was another one I saw. VRBO used to be in there, but they kind of pulled out a little bit. And so I'm kind of curious to see, number one, if Google evolves that into more of a meta search experience for vacation rentals, but also curious too with vacation. One of the things I found with vacation rentals, and part of the reason that I think Google likes them in that space, is with a lot of your OTAs, the big brands out there have negotiated lower commissions, right? Sometimes as low as the low teens, right? Vacation rental commissions, a lot of those are still over 20%. That's a game changer. So now all of a sudden, oh, hey, there's some money in there. And I think that's why Google is doing this. Not because they're getting paid 20%, but because the people who are getting paid 20% will pay CPC to be in there.
Yeah. And think about it, like the margins on vacation rentals can be a lot higher, because if you're renting a 5 or 6 bedroom vacation home, it's the ADR is pretty high on that. So there's some money to be made. But I think for any destination to be successful, you got to have diversity of inventory. Because not everyone wants that experience. They don't want they don't have the resources for that. But some people just want a little box room to lay their head so they can come to a music festival, whatever it is, you know. So I think you got to offer a variety of.
And let's not forget the fact that there's a diversification as to the means of travel too. RVs now, oh my gosh, you know, the demand of what people have, for all the people that have bought RVs and or looking at that this is their means of travel now because they don't want to be dealing with the other components of travel that they are not wanting to enjoy anymore. RVs is a whole big thing now. Now, if it lasts, you know.
I think it was a trend before COVID, but it's another situation where COVID has accelerated. I think. It's becoming more popular as a means of vacationing. I learned something interesting, and I haven't verified that this is factual, but someone told me, so I'm going to pretend like it's a fact. You know, bloke down the pub said, you know, it's must be true. But when Disney Pixar, when they were forming the ideas for Toy Story 4, they struck a deal with Go RV, and Go RV asked them to incorporate RVing into the storyline, which obviously they did. If anyone's seen Toy Story 4. So those kind of promotions are really interesting to me as a destination marketer or someone that is trying to find ways to put my product, my brand into, you know, the zeitgeist. Those kind of collaborations are really, really interesting to me, that someone like Go RV would say, hey, if we can get RVing into a children's movie that's going to be really popular, it's going to influence kids and adults to want to go RVing more. So it's kind of cool from a marketing perspective. Again,
the macro
impacts, but it sounds really cool. So
hey, speaking from a technology side, this is our second episode that we're simulcast live on hospitalitychannel.tv, and this is the first live broadcast on talktravel.tv, which is the app that's going out to Roku, Apple Plus, Apple TV, Google Play, and Amazon Fire Stick.
All right. So I have no idea what either of those are other than streaming services.
Well, they're platforms, and this is the part that I think probably you're going to be probably exposed to a lot. OTT channels now are going to be a thing. I mean, not just the OTT advertising, but OTT channels.
Low barrier to entry.
Yeah, because well, it's still a bit of a challenge, but because you have to still get the apps made on each of the platforms, they still have to get approved. You have to go through all that process, but you also have to have it on a subscription model where people have to pay to get access to your channel. I mean, you can give it away, but you're still paying everybody else to run it for you. It's not like, you know, everybody has their hand out in the food chain. But just like Netflix, where you go on a Roku stick or Roku TV and you're like, oh, I want Netflix. Well, you pay for a subscription to have Netflix as a channel. That's what we have now. We can actually have a channel. And the platform is cool because I can do the recorded replays on 3 levels: linear, looped, or on demand. And
you have codes for us to get it for free?
And then, yes, I will give you a free code. Not everybody, sorry. Because everybody that signs up costs money. But the idea of it is like for things now, I'm looking forward to like that whole Dallas Discovery. You know, I think you might not even be able to make it, Stuart, because you're going to be probably doing a different conference other than High Tech this year.
I think I'm coming to the HSMAI Digital Strategy Conference, probably not all High Tech.
Okay. Awesome. But I'm going to be talking to Julie soon about the fact that with this channel, it's actually a TV channel. We can do live broadcast because like right now it's being live broadcast on the channel. If you go to those places, it's actually broadcasting now.
So dumb question. If I'm a consumer, how do I find this content?
Right now, those 2 platforms, hospitalitychannel.tv is playing it. And then if you go to talktravel.tv, the final process
of those websites is not available somewhere else. Or
right now, Roku, everything's in final version Q. I went through the last hoop of all this, and now I'm waiting for the platforms. They say within 2 to 3 days they'll go live on there for subscription. So
if I load my Roku app and I just search for holiday,
give me 3 days. It'll be on Roku in 3 days. Yeah,
Memorial Day.
Yeah, Memorial Day. It'll be Memorial Day.
We know what Lauren's doing with his weekend.
Yeah, right. Actually, it's been a pretty interesting path because you think you're comfortable with what you know as the technology until you're hit with walls of Apple saying, oh, I'm sorry, we need your DUNS number. Am I what? My DUNS number. I have a DUNS number? You know, and I got to go find a DUNS number because I got to change from a developer's license to an organizational license. Why? I don't know, because that's what I need. You know, Roku coming back saying, I'm sorry, but your pixel count on your icon for your app is 2 pixels farther than we need. We need to read, and okay, and I got to go back in and change. You know, it's that like, okay, I didn't know about all these pieces. But yes, all 4 platforms are going to be launched, they say, within 3 days.
So why are the different brands?
Well, they're all 4 medium channels. I mean, Apple TV, for those who have Apple TV. For those who use Google Play to watch stuff, it's on Google. Amazon Fire Sticks, and these are all apps.
Hospitality TV.
Hospitality Channel TV. Actually, it's called Hospitality TV. Is actually the.
And then what was the other one? Then there was 2 that you'd said.
Oh, those 2. Okay, 2 websites. There's 2 websites that they're running on. One is hospitalitychannel.tv.
Yeah.
The other one is talktravel.tv.
So what's the difference between those?
Okay, hospitalitychannel.tv is going to be linear free programming, basically replays of our live show, podcasts, and other things.
And you're going to also can old legacy content from the last
legacy content. Okay. The talktravel.tv is what will be on Roku, Amazon, Google, and whatever one I missed. Amazon, Google, Apple. That's the subscription service that right now the price is $4.99 a month to subscribe. On that will be unique content that is worthy of people paying for. You know, Dean does a presentation on meta search.
Examples of that content? What type of content?
It's going to be live coverage of events like HSMAI. It's going to be presentations of actual content that's usable, functional, not just rehashing of anything old or new or free. And that's what the content will be on. That will be changed every week. That's the stuff that comes from the Hospitality Marketing Club. It comes from all the stuff that we have from presentations and training of all A-specific hospitality, hence Hospitality TV, content that people are saying, I'll pay $5 a month to see this stuff. That's what
it's all on demand stuff.
It's all on demand. It's all on demand. There'll be different episodes on it that you can say, I want to watch about how to create localized geo-targeted campaign stuff. Oh, that'd be cool to know, you know, or, hey, this is what meta search is. Great. There's meta search. And that's what the content
sounds like a bargain for $4.99 a month.
You would think it would be. Wait, and it's right now I have it as a 7-day free trial. I'm thinking from basically consensus that I might up that.
Is there content out there already?
Right now, it's just I loaded the content of old shows just to be able to submit it for it to be launched. Okay. But as soon as it goes launched, then I'm going to replace the content. I get 10 hours free with the platform I'm with. And then I pay $4 an hour for additional content beyond it. So it's kind of like cart before the horse. Let me get it launched before I start incurring more expense to putting more content on. But I can put 10 hours of content on initially. The really cool part of it is that what I got to do with this platform compared to Vimeo is pushing the bejeebers out of offering this right now. Mm-hmm. They're pushing out this whole get your own OTT channel, and they're pushing like, oh, you do fitness training? Oh, you want to do this? And it's kind of the purpose of what they're pushing it for is the fat, easy market right now of trainers, yoga instructors, cooks that want to show how to cook, because it's like literally, you know, you're creating your own channel that you can go over and say, oh, I'll pay to go over and learn how to make souffles. Okay, sure. You know, it's like your own little, you know, food channel. Or I'll pay to watch this particular workout instructor show me how to do workouts. That's the easy market to sell to right now. So I'm looking at being first to market and then adapting what the content is based on literally the demand of what people are wanting. Like, okay, this is what I think you want, but maybe you want something different. But the cool part is like when I go to the HSMAI or high tech or something, when I broadcast live now, it literally is broadcasting on a TV channel. People can watch it on TV if they're following the channel, which is pretty cool. You know, like, oh, that'd be fun, you know. But these websites, the hospitalitychannel.tv, that's linear content. And I actually got that platform because I was thinking for hotels, they can run their own channel now. They can do a linear channel that says 5 o'clock, we're going to talk about dinner specials today at our restaurant, or they can have a loop channel that we're very familiar with hotels, which is, hi, welcome to Las Vegas, and here's all the cool stuff. And then there's also an on-demand one. Hey, local restaurant guide, click it, and it'll play whatever that content. So it's a pretty cool channel platform on its own too.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Like I said, your technology is stuff.
How do I put my podcast on the channel?
That's the thing you're going to do. That's the video stuff we got to do. We got to convert your audio to video, which is that platform I told you about.
Yeah. But I have video because I.
Well, then we'll just put it on. We just put in the linear stuff. Well, I'll send me if it's on a YouTube link, I can put the link directly in and it'll play it from it. Which is also another cool feature of that hospitality channel stuff is I don't need the actual content. I can just take the link of the content with permission and put it into the programming. And I literally, like a TV producer, program it saying, I want this to play at 2 o'clock, Dean's hour of meta search, 2:00 on Tuesdays. Don't miss it. And I can actually put Dean's stuff in at 2:00, and it'll play at that time each day, that linear programming. So,
well, ladies and gentlemen, as much fun as this has been, as much as I've missed you.
Hey, it's been great to see
drop
you.
off
Yeah, it was
Well,
good
we
to
got
see
3
you.
minutes left.
What? Oh yeah, 5 minutes left. No, you can't leave me. No, that's all
You're
good.
gonna hang up another 5 minutes, man.
It was a.
you twisted my arm. It's like one more beer. So,
Are you in your office, Mr. Star Wars, in the background?
I am. This is my office. I have some Star Wars there. I also have. Let's see if this works without breaking something. I don't know, because my camera's on my monitor. So
look at those nice posters.
Oh, I'm doing something similar to that.
So it's I've got a theme going. I want to put on this wall over here. I want to put another picture, and I found one, but it's a tad expensive. But it's I'm a Beatles fan, and the classic Abbey Road shot of the 4 Beatles walking across the zebra crossing in Abbey Road. There's one of those called Abbey Rogue, and it has a stormtrooper, Darth Vader, Palpatine, and Boba Fett walking across in the same pose. And if you're a real nerdy Beatles fan, you would know that on the album cover of Abbey Road, Paul McCartney has no shoes on. He's
barefoot, right?
Paul McCartney is dead.
Right. My kids are into that conspiracy too. But Palpatine is in that 3rd position, and he has no shoes on in the Abbey Road. But it's a canvas, and it's
everybody knows with Sgt. Pepper album, the Guitar Flower memorial was showing that Paul McCartney, they cloned him, put him in another person. So everybody knows that.
Well, I saw him live, and unless he's a clone, he's alive and kicking. He lived not far from where I grew up, and you'd see his limo go through our village every now and again.
It's another guy. It's a different guy.
That's all right. And just for the record, even though this is a hospitality show, Omega and the Bad Batch, I think is a Palpatine clone, but that's just me talking.
Quite possible. She's definitely Force sensitive. That's
okay, same. With all of that, Robert, thank you for the list. We did hit a couple of items, which you should be happy that we did on topics. But as a reminder to everyone, there is an absolutely outstanding list that Robert Cole from Rock Cheetah does put together every week for us. He did get us a few minutes before the start of the show, so we did have that to be able to go to today. But if you would like to sign up for your own copy of it, it is free from him. You do go to bit.ly/Rock Cheetah, all lowercase, no space. And it's a great, wonderful list that recaps the week very nicely. Also, as a reminder for everyone that we do the Clubhouse, which Stuart has not been able to attend as much because he is saving the world.
I've been in one of them in the last 3 weeks, I think. So.
Yeah. Now there's actually 2.
With him.
There's 2 Clubhouses to talk about. One is that Ed runs at 8 a.m., which Stuart used to be also co-running, but again, busy. 8 a.m., which is what do they call it? Hospitality coffee talk or coffee hospitality? Okay. And he does it on Wednesdays with mainly focus on destination marketing.
Yeah, I've been trying to pop in on the Wednesday one. It's in my wheelhouse now with my new.
Yeah. And we have it on noon for our conversation with his open dialogue. I've been cutting short these past couple of days. Dean knows this is like, I try to emulate where we have more people participating with it, but it hasn't been working. So it's like, once I'm done talking, it's like, if we don't have anything more to talk about, okay, we're done. Thanks. Bye. But we've been doing that at noon and continue to do that noon Monday through Thursdays on Clubhouse app. And then, of course, hear this show that is now broadcasted on TV. And we'll be 3 days from now on Roku, Google, Amazon, and Apple. So in that sense, it'll be fine, but that'll pay for it. Okay, so with that, we are at that point. Real quick, podcast Adele and where to find you.
The Hospitality Reputation Marketing Podcast. Get great reviews. You can find it on YouTube, Spotify, etc. And you can just find the links on Adele Gutman at AdeleGutman.com. Simple as that. You know what, Lauren? Is my new podcast going to be up today? Because I had a wonderful conversation with the owner of the Nantucket Hotel and Resort that for, I think, 5 years now, it's been either the number 1, number 2, or number 3 hotel in the United States of America
No.
in guest reviews on TripAdvisor year after year. And she is full of wisdom and great advice.
Yes, it will be. It will be up today. I was able to get the voiceovers done last night, so it will be up today.
Great.
I will keep up with my dutiful duties.
And Sloan Dean, call me. I can help you with that situation. And I would also love to help all the hotels and vacation rentals in Myrtle Beach get great reviews.
I guess I'm not going to have more barbecue with Sloan Dean when I get back to Dallas. I don't know. Again, Sloan's a great guy. Just don't know where he goes sometimes. All right. Mr. Dean, since I just love seeing your face when I mention people like that, but anyway, Mr. Dean, if you want to know about what you are doing and where to find you and your podcast, where can they find you?
You bet. So basecampmeta.com, metasearchmarketing.com. Keep an eye out for, actually, in fact, I think it came out yesterday. The HSMAI Executive Insights newsletter came out, and we actually had an article in that, which I've shared on my Basecamp LinkedIn page, but I haven't shared it on my own just yet. Got to spread that out a little bit. But it's of course on Metasearch, but when we talk about Metasearch, everybody talks about Google. There's a whole world beyond Google. And so we said, Metasearch beyond Google. What else is out there? Looking at it by countries, by regions, by sites, different things like that. Great article, which will be in there to help launch our educational series now that is being partnered with HSMAI. So exciting things going on with that. Within our Metasearch marketing, particularly if you're one of those small properties out there, even a vacation rental, there's some catches to vacation rentals when we talk about how to do Metasearch, but there are channels that are ideal for that. And even if you're a small little bed and breakfast in Myrtle Beach that wants to have a point of sale on your Google My Business page, I can make that happen for you. Reach out to me.
Is he coattailing you, Stuart? Is he coattailing you? Is that what's happening?
You bet I
am. Hey, we got to tell them Melissa's in the Peanut Gallery, Fuel Travel, great podcast, multi-award winning, probably better than it ever was before because Stuart's not there anymore. Melissa's
it's definitely improved the last 4 weeks. Yeah.
So, Mr. Stuart, hey, by the way, so are you still on the HSMI board? Are you still able to
I'm
participate
going to
with
start
that?
my term. So I have this year and next year to see how that.
Are you also on the content board for the marketing conference as well? Or
I'm not. No, I'm on the thought leadership work group.
Okay, I know Melissa was on the last show. She was talking about the fact that they're having a very aggressive agenda growth on it, and I'm really looking forward to it. I really hope that I can make it out to Dallas to catch it and Rock and also High Tech. But it looks like it's going to be a really neat emerging content. If Melissa's involved with the content and you're influencing it from what you're doing, I think it's going to be very relevant. I think it's going to be a very good conference.
It's great. It's one of my favorite from my content. They really, the good thing about it is the content isn't put together by the show managers, right? It's put together by folks that are attendees, because the Marketing Advisory Board at HSMAI is made up of hospitality professionals. And so they're the ones deciding on who the speakers should be. So it really is a good representation of folks that we as the hospitality industry want to hear from. So that's what was great.
That is the difference between HSMAI and any other organization that puts on a conference. It's hoteliers and hospitality people putting together content for ourselves, and it makes such a difference. I think you're confusing, though. I think it's Tammy at Milestone.
Was it Tammy that was in, not Melissa?
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, you're right. It was
right.
Tammy. Thank you. Yes, you're right. It was Tammy, not Melissa. My bad. Thank you for correcting me on that. It was Tammy. Tammy was doing that. You're absolutely right.
She's great. I hope she gets to speak again, because she's spoken at the conference.
Oh, she did great. She really did. Yeah, she did. She crushed it last time for a very complex topic too. I think I give her credit for that. It was like no easy topic to do in 6 minutes.
Sometimes people slip through the cracks. I remember this clown, what was his name? Lauren Gray at one point did a session. It was, but
it's old news.
They make up for it too. That was the first place I ever met Dean. He did a really good session on myth busting meta, which
myth busting your meta.
Yeah. I don't know. For as much as I'm looking forward to the content of that event, I'm probably going to be more interested in what are people doing in group hugs and connecting and
get the
seeing
biggest
people
ever. That it will probably last a little too long, and you'll feel a little uncomfortable.
A little uncomfortable, but it's like a Joe Biden call. You're like,
it's coming. We're both vaccinated. We can hug it out.
Right. There it is. Hey, so Stuart, I get to ask for the first time in a long time. So if people want to know more about Myrtle Beach,
I got to come up with a whole new spiel. This is
it's a whole new spiel time.
Go to muscle memory and start saying, well, you should go listen to the podcast at fueltravel.com/podcast, regardless, even though I'm not on it anymore. I'm on the first 185 episodes, but it's still continuing its stellar job of producing some amazing tactical advice for hotels. And Pete has taken on the mantle, and Melissa and Phil are still running the show as well. So it's continue to listen to that, fueltravel.com/podcast. But yeah, you can find me on Clubhouse sometimes. You can find me on LinkedIn at Stuart Butler. Or if you want to learn about what we've got going on in Myrtle Beach, my new email address is stuart.butler@visitmyrtlebeach.com. So you can just shoot me an email. Love to hear from you, hear what's going on. And I miss all my hotel friends for sure.
Yeah, it's good. It's really great to see you. And Adele and Dean, thank you so much as always for the privilege of everyone's time. This and all episodes previous to this, all 302 prior to this, are available on hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com and now also available on hospitalitychannel.tv and in future tense, talktravel.tv. What did you, Stuart? I went your way of saying make it shorter better. Talktravel.tv. What do you think? You know, it's kind of catchy.
I'd forgotten it until you referenced it, but yeah, it's succinct, which is good. Should be.
Yeah, kind of straightforward. We'll see where it goes, and it's an evolving thing. I'm starting with what, you know, as with all things, you make it your own idea, but then when you put it out into the public, it turns into whatever the public wants it for. So it's
always listen to the consumer, man. No matter what job you're doing, if you want to be a good marketer, listen to the consumer.
And that's what we're hoping that evolves into, as to what is it people want to get off of that channel. So with all that, also podcasts, ones that we didn't mention today, there's Sales Podcast with Holly Zoba, Hospitality Sales Podcast. We also have the the revenue management one with Miss Lily Mockerman, who is enjoying her time in Mexico City, which, you know, that's why.
Wait, well, what?
Oh yeah. Oh, Lily's living the life in Mexico.
That's a whole other episode.
Yeah, she's down there for a whole month doing the whole digital nomad thing.
Oh wow.
A whole month down there. Yeah, just follow her Facebook profile and you'll be like, yeah, you're having fun.
Good for her.
Yeah, so she's there, but she has her podcast. I'm after the latest episode. I just got it loaded up, Adele, so that's why yours is getting loaded up today. Her number, the podcast number 32, just loaded up. And so, but there's that podcast one. Plus, also I'll be recording the Hospitality Marketing Podcast, which we'll have a little recap of today, and I'll talk about Dean there too. And Slendy. Anyway. Thank you all for the time, and we look forward to you joining us on Clubhouse next week at noon. No, actually, Monday we're not doing it. It's Labor Day. Sorry. Tuesday next week
Memorial
we're
Day.
doing Clubhouse. Yeah. Sorry. Monday, no. Tuesday, yes. But Friday next week, 11:30 a.m. Eastern always, and we'll simulcast this again, Sydney time and London time, Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. So thank you all, and appreciate it.
Bye, guys.
It's great to see you. Bye, everyone.
Have a happy holiday weekend.
Happy Memorial Day.